in the world. Because there is a slight political statement, and Sylvester Stallone, who's a co-author or co-writer of the script and producer and stuff like that, he can probably say it until he's blue in the face that it has nothing to do with the current political climate, and it's all BS. It does. Now, harking back to Rocky, and everybody thinks that Sylvester Stallone is kind of, hey, Adrian, I'm a kind of dummy. No, Sylvester Stallone is not stupid. He's not stupid. He's very astute, actually. I mean, think about it. I mean, here's a guy that's reinvented himself a few times throughout his career, and now he's enjoying a resurgence again. After everybody thought that his career was done, this guy comes back again. And there's plans in the works for an Expendables 3. And what is he's like 65 years old almost, playing an action hero. But anyway, he's not stupid. So the political point to this is that, yes, all this weapons-grade plutonium was being stored unbeknownst to the United States government at the time. But it's a little bit of and this is not a stretch, folks. This is tying in with modern day, what's happening in modern day times. It's tying in with what you got going on in Iran and North Korea. Now, we keep saying that both of them, they don't have nuclear weapons. Iran doesn't have a nuclear weapon. Well, in the movie, basically what Sylvester Stallone was trying to tell us is that we didn't know that there was, tons of this unused, unspent nuclear material, bomb-making material, somewhere in the former Soviet Union. So what he's saying is that how do we know that this is not the case in Iran? This is not the case in North Korea. This is not the case that we don't know how much Pakistan and India might have, or anybody else, for that matter. And if we're going to be honest with ourselves, we don't. We don't know. And I'm not disparaging our government. Oh, of course not. No. I would never do that. Look, I don't care who the president is. We're talking about a large nation here, ours. Large nation. Population and size-wise. From sea to shining sea. There's a lot going on in our own country that our government and president doesn't know. He's one man. There's just no way for him to know. Now, can you imagine if we think that he's going to know everything about around the world? I mean, it takes thousands and thousands of people just to gather intelligence from all over the planet. So when it comes to gathering intelligence, I do not blame our government for the lack of it. Here's why. There is a caveat. If you are spending an appropriate amount of your dollars, your government dollars, on trying to do and accomplish an amazing job, and stuff slips through your fingers, well, we're all human. That's going to happen. That's okay. You're not going to know everything. But if you do, what oftentimes liberal administrations do is cut back on our defense, cut back on our intelligence gathering, and stuff slips through, then shame on you. If we don't know something simply because there's just too much going on out there, but we're spending a lot and we're getting a good bang for our buck, but something just slips through, that is fine if we are out there doing the absolute best we can. But when we cut back and we're not doing the absolute best we can and something slips through, that's shame on us. So when these guys find out that there is all this plutonium in the movie now, then they try to go secure it so Jean-Claude Van Damme's character does not get a hold of it and sell it. Now, that is one of the biggest fears that we have in this country, as far as our government is concerned, and the people of this country, is that some of that nuclear material from the old Soviet Union got sold off, or could be sold off, to terrorist organizations, and thus they could create a dirty bomb. Could you imagine a dirty bomb going off in a major American city? It would be the devastation and death toll would be nothing that we've ever experienced on this continent in one event. But the point is that it's preventable. But it's only preventable if we do the right things to prevent it. If we have a team like the Expendables, I don't believe that we do, because we have well-trained, younger, capable people called Special Forces. I don't think we need a bunch of 50 and 60-year-old former military personnel who past their prime trying to go out there. Although that might work, who knows? They might be able to do a better job than some of the real people out there today. Something to be said for about experience. Not to mention, it would be a good moment that would take the enemy by surprise. Because would you expect somebody the age of Sylvester Stallone out there doing spy work? No, of course not. You wouldn't expect that at all. That would probably work very well. But it would probably only work once. That would probably only work once. And then after that, then it probably wouldn't work again, because fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me, type of thing. And having an old guard, the age of Sylvester Stallone or any of those guys, most of those guys in the movie Expendables or Expendables 2 would. Mickey Rourke was at. I don't think Mickey Rourke didn't die in the first movie, but he was absent in this one. I couldn't. I'll have to go back and watch Expendables 1, because it made me think that, well, geez, if Mickey Rourke died, why isn't he back in it? But I don't know. Maybe Mickey couldn't make it. House Republicans release a counter proposal in fiscal cliff. Washington. This came out just a couple of hours ago. House Republicans earlier today unveiled a counter proposal to a Democratic plan to avoid the so-called fiscal cliff. That includes $800 billion in new government revenue by eliminating write-offs in the tax code while extending current let me address this bullshit for a second. That's exactly what it is. Well, we're not going to raise. I mean, because this is one of the things that just frosted me about Romney. We're not going to raise the rate. We're just going to eliminate some deductions. Well, you know what? At any point, if you do anything in the tax code that causes somebody to pay more in taxes, I don't care how you call it, it's still a tax increase. Anytime that you force people to fork over more of their money to the government, it's a tax increase. Now, I know some people are saying, well, Rod, we're not really raising the rate. I don't care. You're talking, we're not really addressing the issue. The issue is not whether rich people and poor folk and middle class families have access to the same loopholes and deductions. And first of all, there's no such thing as a loophole. It's been written in the tax code for a reason. So, but that's not the point. The point is, well, we're going to keep the rate at 30%. But you see, what we're going to do is, it's kind of sound like Don Knotts. You see, what we're going to do is, we're just going to take all these deductions away. So basically, when you have, just using round numbers, you have a 30% tax rate. But somebody, including a middle-class person, can take a few deductions and make that 30% turn into 25%. But now they're going to say, well, you know what? We're going to get rid of those deductions. So now you can't bring down your 30% rate down to 25%. You got to stay up there at 30%. But we're not raising your rate. This is and look, the Republicans are playing this too. And this is, you're going to still be taking money out of the private sector at a time. Well, first of all, whether it's good times or bad, you should not be taking so much cash out of the private sector. I mean, after all, the government doesn't earn it. And I know that there are people out there that think, well, it's just unfair. No, BS on the unfair crap. You know what's unfair? It's unfair that a small business person that employs tons of other people takes a personal risk, puts his house on the line, puts his kids' college education on the line to start and run a business and to employ, tens, maybe hundreds of people who in turn pump the economy, the local economy, with dollars. It's unfair that they don't earn $100 million a year. But it's quite all right and quite fair for people like Jay-Z and Beyonce to be worth $300 million. It's quite all right and fair for people even like one of my favorite actors, Will Smith, to earn like $25 million a movie. Movie! Just a movie! Sure, maybe they hundreds of people get employed to do a movie, but how long does a movie last? 1 or 2 months? We're talking about the people who are there every single day, 365. Not just 2 months. And you want to say that it's not fair that the rich... Well, you know what? Then tell your rich friends over in Hollywood to pony up some money. Because I don't see them offering. Well, a couple of them do. But when it gets down to brass tacks, and you actually get a chance to see their tax returns, or you hear about their tax return, no, they're taking every damn deduction that they can take too. They're not voluntarily paying more in taxes. I don't think that there's a single liberal, I wouldn't say a single liberal. There's no liberal out there that is willingly paying more in taxes. That's just asinine. If you expect anybody to believe that, I know you probably got some wonderful property down in Florida to sell us. So better yet, you probably got some absolutely beautiful seaside beach property in Arizona for us, don't you? Remember, I don't know, maybe they do. Remember the first Superman with, Lex Luthor wanted to cause a great earthquake and have California fall off the map, fall into the ocean, and that way the seacoast would come closer to where he... Yeah. There are probably people out there that believe that stuff like that can happen too. As well as believe that any time that either a Republican or a Democrat says we're not going to raise your rate, we're just going to eliminate deductions. So now we're going to raise an additional $800 billion or whatever in tax. Well, if you're going to raise money